Once again, how happy I am to see your lovely faces in person here today after a bit of a hiatus. I know that this pandemic has certainly caused so much disturbance and has been quite a hardship for all of us. But seeing your faces here convinces me that in the midst of all of this, not one of you have been shaken in your faith. You still trust and you still present yourself here to be with Christ and to receive all that he has to offer. Today we hear Jesus say in the Gospel of Luke, "Blessed are you who are poor. Blessed are you who are now hungry, who are weeping, or when people hate you." Who among us wants to be poor or hungry, weep or be hated? Where's the blessing in that? Well, most people, if not the majority of people that I've met, want and see as a blessing to be rich and full and happy and famous. But let's not confuse Jesus' words with him saying that poverty, hunger, sadness, or hatred is a blessing. What he was saying was that people are blessed in their sufferings when their faith is not shaken and their trust is solid. Because, you see, our sufferings expose our vulnerabilities and our human brokenness, our frailties, and our need, and it demonstrates our need and dependence on God. It causes us to rely on something more than ourselves. Our hardships, in effect, therefore, should make us not bitter or angry, but should have us understand that we on our own are not enough. We need God. We need to rely on God. We are dependent on him. When, as disciples of Christ, we strive to always maintain that faith, regardless of our circumstances, on God, we live according to our purpose, which is to live in a deep, abiding relationship with God. Whatever cross that we encounter, whatever hardship we bear, has purpose. Although it may be hard to believe that it does, but it does. Because whatever cross it is that we bear draws us closer to God. How often have we found ourselves in distress, and what is the first thing we'll be asking for? Our God. God, where are you? If that's one case. Or, God, help me. It's at that moment that in our fraction of a moment that we realize we can't do this. And without God, it's hopeless. So in that sense, we become blessed, no matter the circumstances. The social poverties, though, of poverty, hunger, sadness, and hatred do need to be dealt with. More so today than I, in my opinion, believe than yesterday. We see it rife. We hear it in the news. We see it on the streets. It's awful. And it looks hopeless. But it isn't. For all things work for good. For all things work for the purpose of God, for the good of God, for those who trust and believe in him. So these conditions do need to be dealt with, and that's where you and I come in. That's where you and I have a dime in that quarter. As disciples of Christ, we know his word, we hear his word, we know his example, we see his example in others. We must strive to do the same. all of our hardship does need to be dealt with and can be overcome when those of us with a surplus of goods or resources help those who have not. Much too often, many who have plenty lose themselves in the blessings and riches the world has offered them by treating these gifts, which are truly of God, as gods themselves. If we lose ourselves in that way, in the material possessions we have been blessed with, instead of losing ourselves in the one God who provided these blessings and riches, it becomes more of a curse rather than a blessing. When we put God first in our everyday lives, especially in those moments of suffering and trial, what the Lord said in our first reading in Jeremiah holds true. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose hope is the Lord. He is like a tree planted beside the waters that stretches out its roots to the stream. It fears not the heat when it comes, its leaves stay green. In the year of drought it shows no distress, but still bears fruit. Brothers and sisters, we are called, regardless of our condition, to bear fruit to the best of our ability, given the resources and the riches that we've been blessed with, and provide them and help those who have not. And in that way, they see God through us. What Christ offers us are true riches, spiritual riches that are eternal, not the riches of this world which pass away and are left behind. Those who trust in the Lord always, who, bearing their crosses and suffering with faith and hope, believing in the resurrection and life eternal, there they know that poverty, sadness, hunger, hatred are no more. They keep it in perspective. They are truly blessed. Our hope is not for this life only, but for what Christ has to offer those who hear his word and follow his example. When we recognize and understand that our need and dependence is rightly placed in reliance on God, regardless, whatever our own particular cross may be, we can overcome those hardships and persevere through our struggles. Let us not be tempted to lose ourselves in the material blessings we have received in this world and have Jesus' words come true. What is required, though, is a certain level of wisdom to live with worldly riches and put God first. Oftentimes, that may not be an easy task. Our suffering, then, like I said, is purposeful, keeping it in perspective, knowing that it keeps us closer to God. And that is the point. An intimate, personal, close relationship with our Creator. That in itself is sufficient enough. Should be sufficient enough. So, whatever hardship, whatever cross we bear, let us look to it as not a curse, but a blessing. So, blessed are you who are poor. Blessed are you who are not hungry. Blessed are you who are not weeping. Blessed are you when people hate you. Rejoice. Your reward will be great in heaven. On this cold, snowy midwinter day, as beautiful as it turned out to be, may we all share in a hunger for the Word of God to guide us and for the Eucharist to nourish us, and have a thirst for a life in the Lord that can overcome the hardships and struggles of our everyday lives. Amen.